Hello. I would like to call to order the Legal Affairs Subcommittee. In attendance for the subcommittee is Councilor Ryan Melville. Sitting in for Councilor Turco, Councilor Gould, would you mind sitting in for Councilor Turco? Thank you. Councilor Daigle and Councilor Manning Martin, if you wouldn't mind sitting in for Councilor Higgins until he gets here. We have two items on the agenda. First item is a gift of land to the city on Newbury Street. I would like to ask Councilor Brian Barrett to let us know. For my own edification, this is the first time that we're actually receiving land. Usually we're the ones kind of deeming it as surplus and trying to sell it. So somebody actually giving us a gift of land, I would actually just like to know, A, the process, and then B, the will of the committee. So Councilor Barrett, if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving an overview of the process, where we are in that process.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. This property is up on Newbury Street, as the letter indicates. It was owned by the moving company, and that land just changed hands recently, and the current owner found this parcel to be surplus and wanted to deed it to the city. The mayor's office contacted us and asked us to reach out to the owner's attorney and just get it done. So in speaking to Don Kahn, he said the council would need to just ratify the gift, and then it would just be a matter of the owner conveying the parcel to the city per the deed that we put in the package for nominal consideration, and we would just we wouldn't even pay recording fees because we're exempt. So that's the proposal, and that's the process.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Any questions from the council? Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Being unfamiliar with this, I see that they're gifting a portion of the premises, so we would subdivide the property, or at what point would this be sectioned out as a separate map and lot number? How does that process work?
I don't know if it's separately assessed now, that parcel. If it's not, then it's part of a recorded plan, so they would just convey out by that description, and then it would be separately assessed by the city.
So once it's recorded at the registry, then it goes to the assessors, and then they draw a little map and assign map and lot B or whatever. So there is a distinction if we were to look it up in the future.
Yeah, if there needs to be an A&R plan, that would be at the expense of the donor.
Okay, I hate to see them encumber any expense if they're donating it, but as long as it's clear that it's separated and it's not their parcel, but we have a piece of it, but I look it up online, it looks like it's all one owner and not city property. Does that make sense?
Currently, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, any other questions from the rest of the council? Seeing none, what is the will of the subcommittee? Councilor Melville.
I'd be willing to make a motion. Is there specific language that we should be making this motion as?
Yeah, just to accept the proposed deed for recording.
I'd make that in the form of a motion to accept the deed in preparation for recording.
The proposed deed for recording, as drafted.
As drafted. So moved.
Could you just say that one more time just for the city clerk?
Attorney Barrett, can you just repeat that for the clerk?
Yeah, to move to receive the deed as drafted for recording.
So moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Melville.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Barrett. All set. Next item on the agenda is the purchase of city-owned land, 2024.08.06, plot plan 0 Birch Street. If Mr. Bellavance could just elaborate on that parcel. Thank you.
Good evening, Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director. Yes, we received notification from the City Clerk's office that I believe the Legal Affairs had, or the City Council had asked the question since there was an applicant looking to purchase the city land for our office to look into that. As I was putting that together, I did notice that we took this up in 2019 as well. I didn't recall that, but I saw in my notes that that at that time we did recommend that the city had no use for this land, and we recommended selling that property. So that still stands true. I did reach back out to other departments to get their input again. The departments I reached out felt the same, that the city had no use for this property. It has no direct access anywhere. It abuts 4 property owners. And so one of the property owners was interested in selling or purchasing that, and we had no objection to that. I can, as a recommendation to the council, we'd recommend that we'd notify the abutters of that property to see who's interested, and we'd hold a process. You can only sell land 2 ways. It's either by auction or by RFP, sealed bid. So we would recommend doing a sealed bid. If there's any restrictions the council wants to put on that, we would include that as part of the RFP. And then we would notify all the abutters through certified mail to let them know that they had an opportunity or interest in this property. Then they could submit a sealed bid in regards to that. The property is assessed at $2,500 based on the assessors. I don't know if that's the correct amount. It can't be too much more, too much less. We went through this process with Linda Jean, and that larger parcel was valued more than that. So I would assume that this is a lower project, lower cost. And anything under $35,000, the city council has discretion in regard to the process of doing that and surplusing the land. I believe in 2019, the council voted to surplus that land. I checked with Don Kahn, and he said that is still valid, but I know there are new members on the city council than there were in 2019, so the council may want to vote that again, just to be clean on the record, and then we can go through the process, notify abutters, and request sealed bids for the property. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bellavance. Any questions from the council? Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Bellavance, do you need 2 motions tonight? One to declare it surplus and one to have you
Yes.
begin the second one would be once declared surplus to approve the city-owned property identified as 0 Birch Street to be put out to bid?
Yes.
And for you to follow the process, those 2 motions?
Yes.
All right. I'll be happy to, at your request, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to make those motions.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilor McGinn.
Just to kind of reinforce the comments by Mr. Bellavance, we did bring this to completion in 2019. It was twice before Legal Affairs. I was chair at the time, so I went back and I looked at my notes and looked at the council record. We did declare it surplus. We did request that the abutters be noticed. We did request that community development issue an RFP. There was a challenge to kind of our process by the purchasing agent, Mr. Doucette. The council did not agree with his opinion. There was, the ultimate action on this was on October 24th, 2019. The motions were made by Councilor Melville, and it was to formally declare the city-owned parcel known as 0 Birch Street, map 4, parcel 51A, as surplus, and further to refer this matter back to the city clerk and Community Development Department to complete the process in accordance with motion P666-19 and flow chart policy to dispose of the request to sell the city-owned land dated April 17th, 1998. That was that passed unanimously at the time. As you heard, Mr. Bellavance, it sounds like he checked with Attorney Khan. There's no limit on this. It's confusing to me why that didn't happen at the time. You know, when I look at this, it was just before COVID, and you know, maybe it fell through the cracks. You know, maybe it didn't happen immediately, and this was late October, and maybe it was planned to be done in early 2020, and we all know what happened then. So that's just purely conjecture, speculation on my part. I don't know. I don't know what happened in the clerk's office or community development, but we have the director here. Do you happen to know what happened at that point in time?
I don't. As I was drafting the memo, I have a list of all the memos that I usually write. I went to the particular ones where people want to purchase city land. I saw there was a Birch Street. I pulled that up, and I said, this looks like the same lot. I didn't recall that, but ultimately, the council asked us to do a completed task, and we didn't. So it's community development's, you know, falls on us to make sure that that task gets done, and we didn't. So we're here, and we'll complete that task at this time.
Right. And just so it's clear, there were other interested parties at the time. This was not, there were 2 applications to purchase this land at the time. So whether or not that will be the same condition this go around, who knows? But, you know, I guess I wouldn't see there's actually any need to make these motions other than to maybe just affirm the actions that were taken by the council in 2019, because it's completely a duplicate effort to kind of make the same motions that were made then. They're still valid according to the city solicitor, and they just need to act on it. I guess the only other thing, and I believe Councilor Higgins is here now. There was something built on this land, according to the memo from Mr. Bellavance. So I don't know the extent to what was built on that land, but it does remind me of another very somewhat similar set of circumstances that played out a few months ago. So I think that piece of it should be evaluated, and we should, if they're, you know, if I'm assuming this is going to move forward. It should, in my opinion, it should move forward because it shouldn't even be back before us. But you know, to the extent there's some other action taken at this time, I think that if there was something built on this city property, that piece of it should be addressed. Perhaps that's in a condition that would go out in the RFP. Perhaps that's the way that's the remedy there. It's the last comment I would make is in the package. We had a communication from Ross Teitelbaum. That was dated October 7th, 2024, and he said, quote, after doing some research with Susan, I assume he's talking about Susan Antonellis, we have come to the conclusion that the property should have a title search done on it. So that again, that was something that was written in October. When I went back to the 2019 information, we had the exact same question at that time. In fact, I think it was you, Councilor Rossignol, that raised the question about the ambiguity around the ownership. So we then referred that piece of the matter to the city solicitor, and the city solicitor did assign that to one of the assistant city solicitors. And see if I can find it here. We received a communication June 5th, 2019 from Adam Buckley. It's like a 14-page document. And it he goes through the entire chain of title and history on this property and concludes very definitively that the city of Peabody is the owner of Lot 51A on AO Map 4 containing 5,450 square feet of land. So to the extent anybody saw that communication from Mr. Teitelbaum that was just from October of this year, that whole thing was run to ground in June 5th, 2019 by the Assistant City Solicitor. So again, we took that action before we took the action to actually declare it surplus and request the RFP. So I hope some of that historic context helps a little bit. And again, I'm just not sure we should be making repetitive motions, but it probably is appropriate to just affirm that that the council would like the clerk's office and with respect to the notice piece of it and the Community Development Department with respect to the RFP to act on Council Motion P733-19 that was made on October 24th, 2019. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you letting me speak. I'm not on the committee. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other councilors? Councilor Higgins.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry for being tardy to this meeting. It was apparently a rollover accident on 128 near Centennial Drive. It delayed me considerably. I agree with the comments from Councilor McGinn and really appreciate the historical background on this issue that I was not aware of until recently. I have talked to the applicant. I do think we should go forward. That's how I feel with the sale of this. But the issue with the piece of patio that's over the property line, I think we should make a condition that that is removed prior to any sale. I'm not certain how anyone else feels about the other comments from Councilor McGinn about the, I think he's absolutely correct, and I wouldn't want to challenge him on this and how long these motions are good for. I'm sure they are. But I am curious as to how, since so many years have transpired between that 2019 and now, with the contacting of the abutters, the landscape has changed. There's new residents. So some of those abutters that were contacted 2019, not likely around now. So I'm curious if we should send out some letters notifying. I will yield, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Higgins. Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My assumption, just based off what I was reading this, you have to you're going to contact all the abutters based off of tonight moving forward, correct?
Yes, what we'll do is we'll put a letter together, basically if there's conditions such as the removal of the patio, any other conditions that the council would want, and we'd send that letter out to all the abutters certified. Would ask them to contact our office if they have any additional questions. Well, at that time, we'll have a date and time that they can, we can meet at the property if we need to, if there's interest, and two, then have a date where they would submit their sealed bid, and then we would open them in public, in a public setting at that time, and then determine who the bidder is, the winning bid for that property, and then move forward on regarding whatever legal costs they'd have to do for filing and recording and things like that.
Thank you. And I would support reaffirming it tonight with the two motions that Councilor Manning Martin mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. In my opinion, even though it is a reaffirmation of 2019 vote, there's a new ward councilor, there's three other new councilors on this board that were not here in 2019. Why, how, what happened in 2019, how this fell off? My opinion, I think we make 3 new motions. The first one, in my opinion, should be removal of anything that is currently on city property, because it's not their property, it is ours. So that would be the first motion I would entertain. The second one would be to deem it surplus, just like the council did previously in 2019. And then the third one is to set an assessed value of that property through the proper process that we use through community development. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I will step out and allow Councilor Councilor Higgins to step back in, as it's his committee and it's his ward. So I'll step out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin, for filling in. The other thing, obviously, we would have to contact the abutters, the current abutters of the property. Councilor Melville.
Just for clarity, wouldn't we want to just follow the, would the motion just be, you know, you can add the condition, Councilor Higgins, and then to follow the memo as set forth by community development? The only reason, then you have a baseline memo you can point back to, and this is what we're following.
That's a valid motion.
Okay.
Could you repeat the question? I didn't quite hear all of that.
That's quite all right. So the first motion that I would entertain would be to remove any and all structures that are currently on city property. I would entertain that as a motion.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to remove any and all structures that are existing on the 0 Birch Street parcel that belongs to the city.
You heard the motion by Councilor Higgins. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Melville.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
The second motion I would entertain is to follow the recommendations of the Director of Community Development, Kurt Bellavance, stating the process to move forward, which is voting that this is surplus land, as well as contacting and informing all interested parties.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to make a motion to follow the recommendations of the Community Development Director as to the method how we move forward and contacting all of the abutters as part of the sale of this parcel. So moved.
First, to deem it surplus. Councilor Melville.
Can we just reference the memo, just as the point? I know I'm fine with reiterating, but I want to reference the specific steps in the memo, so that if there's ever an issue, we can point back.
Well,
That that's what
the
we
first
voted on.
step of the memo is to deem it surplus. So that's just the only thing that I'm trying to ascertain. Councilor McGinn.
Just a point of information, if there's any I'm fine with this redoing the motions, but if there's any concern about the language, the motions that were here are precisely correct. So you could just vote to affirm these two motion numbers, and you would have the correct language and the outcome that I think you're trying to achieve.
I'm sorry, Mr. Councilman McGinn, I could not hear you.
I apologize. Can you hear me now? It seems like there may be some concern about the wording of the motion, and, you know, what you're endeavoring to do here is precisely what was done in 2019. So if you just referred to those two motions, that those be acted upon, you know, and voted by this council, which I think is your concern, that it be voted by the current members of the council, you would have exactly the language and I think address the concern that is raised by Councilor Melville. So those two motions were, if you'd like, these would be motion P666-19, and that was from September 26, 2019, and motion P733-19, which is from October 24th, 2019.
Councilor Higgins.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the motion number P666-19 from September of 2019. And I'd also recommend that, add to it that we follow P673-19 from 2019. So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Higgins. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Melville.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.